I'm sorry, but I haven't cleaned out the studio yet. But in this video, I thought we should talk about why you shouldn't buy an FPV drone, but also why you should, because it's a lot of fun. This drone is a very fun drone, but it was also very expensive. It cost me around, I think it was $500 or $600. It's the same camera as the DJI AATA has though. So you can get some cool shots, but I just fly it for fun here in the studio. The first thing that I want to talk about is that the trend is going away. You know how things go in and out of trends, and there's a huge influx of people doing the same thing when something starts to become popular. And I think that it's kind of comparable to when I was doing the cinematic B-roll sequences, because at that time there wasn't a lot of people doing them, but as soon as everyone started to do them, it started to fade off. And I feel like the same thing is going with FPV. You have some people that are freaking amazing at flying. My friend David, for example, he's working on multiple different big commercials together with his friends that have been doing this for years and years and years. But then you also have the majority of people that don't want to put in the hours and don't want to spend a lot of time tinkering with the drones, trying to figure out what looks the best, which camera that you should use, what controller you should use, and so on and so forth. And that is why I feel like the trend of FPV is starting to fade away. Now get me right, I still think that FPV has a place, and as an avid FPV flyer, I really like the intensity that you can get when you're flying FPV, but it also feels like you can only use specific clips here and there. For example, if I were to use this FPV clip in one of my videos, what I wanted to do is probably try to implement as much of that line that I was flying into the video. But if I were to cut somewhere in the middle of that to a static shot, it would feel instantly out of place with that static shot. And FPV is a great way to give you that high-end action feeling into your shots, but it's also very hard to use it in between different types of shots. The next reason is going to be the hassle of flying FPV. You can, of course, do like me and purchase sort of like bind and fly drones, which is great because then someone else builds the drone and you just purchase a controller, some goggles, and then you just like bind it, fly it, send it, whee, crash it. Because that is eventually going to happen. Like, you will crash. And when you crash, you need to tinker around. There's going to be frames that needs to be changed. There's going to be engines. Did you say engines? Prop? No, what is it called? Motors, not engines. Props that is going to break time and time again. Maybe you break a camera, lose something, so on and so forth. It's going to be a lot of tinkering for you if you want to take it seriously. But before you even get to the flying part, you also need to spend a lot of time practicing actually flying an FPV drone in a simulator. Flying an FPV drone is nothing like a real drone, mainly because you are controlling the thrust, the pitch and yaw and everything else that comes with the aircraft moving forward and backward. And that is something that you don't have to do with a real drone, for example, because flying a real drone is today, in this day and age, super easy, and I love that. And most of the time when you're flying a real drone, the reason I'm calling them a real drone is because I think that those are sort of like the majority of drones that people purchase today. FPV is not sort of like for the majority of the masses. Everyone can purchase a DJI Mini 4 and just send it up, start to get some cool shots, and then you're done. That is something you can't do with an FPV. Another reason is that you need to find the right tools. You just need to buy a controller that suits with the receiver that you got on your drone, and then you want to have the best pair of goggles that actually fits with the what is it called? VFX, visual stuff that you got that is sending the video feed to your goggles. There's a bunch of different options that you can purchase, and something that I did when I was jumping into FPV a little bit more than 1.5 years ago was that I started out with AATA, but when I went up to, custom bind and fly drones, I purchased a drone that wasn't compatible with my remote, which means that I had to send it back and order the right one. And those are kind of things that are hard to keep in mind when you're starting out. And again, when you're purchasing a real drone, you don't need to think about that because the bundle that you're purchasing works as a unified device. One of the key elements when it comes to making your drone shots feel intense is music and sound design. And that is where Artlist comes into play. When it comes to making it feel more epic, more big, more large, more adrenaline filled, Artlist is the place where I go to find that music. What I really like about finding the music on Artlist is that you can sort by different genres and then go into the different moods, epic, cinematic, and then you can go and sort by newest so you get the latest and greatest hits. And this is something that I do for every video that I make so that I try to stay ahead of the game a little bit. After you found a song that you like, enhancing the video with sound effects is crucial. And again, Artlist got you covered there as well. They got a bunch of different sound effects that you can choose from. Ocean, waterfall, like whatever you need, just type it in and it's like you're gonna get a bunch of suggestions that is going to be related to your search. Another cool thing with Artlist is that even if you're not flying a drone, you can still get some drone clips if you want to have that. Just go into the footage section of Artlist and then you're going to be able to download stock footage from multiple different drone locations, add that into your video, and you're all set. You don't even have to go out and fly, which is sick. I'm going to drop a link in the description to Artlist. Head over there now. You're going to get 2 months for free when you sign up. And the final reason you shouldn't buy an FPV drone is because you can't fly it everywhere. It is very hard to have a 5-inch drone in the air when you're flying in the middle of a forest. It's like, of course, you can drive to different locations. You can drive to the sea, you can drive to a beach or maybe the mountains and send it off right there. But it's also very niched because those are mainly the places where you're actually allowed to fly an FPV drone. And with that said, I'm going to say that I am a huge fan of FPV and I love flying FPV. And this is also the reason why you should buy an FPV. Flying an FPV is nothing like flying a regular drone. There's so much more to it. There's the intensity of seeing exactly what the drone is seeing, adjusting the speed, adjusting the altitude, adjusting the pitch angle, the tilt, and everything else with your fingertips at the same time as you're seeing everything in real time. It just makes it so much more different than what a regular drone could ever give you when it comes to the flying aspect. And the next reason that I think you should purchase an FPV drone is because you're gonna become a better pilot. If you can fly an FPV drone, you can fly any sort of drone that is on the market. You can even become a daredevil when it comes to flying the Mavic or the Mini 3 or the Mini 4. You can get close to things. You're gonna feel much more comfortable turning off the sensors, punching through different gaps. All of those things will come as soon as you start flying FPV. But I warn you, it will also feel very boring when you get back to flying regular drones after you've learned how to fly FPV. I think that is mainly because when you're flying an FPV, you want to find the next line. You want to fly a little bit tighter, a little bit closer, a little bit more in between the rocks or something similar. So you always start to push yourself. And then at the last flight of your battery, you're going to be like, oh, if I crash now. But then when you get the shot, you're like, yes. And the final reason is to actually have it as a hobby and not implement it into the service that you're providing. Because if you don't want to take this seriously, it's still a lot of fun just to go out and fly, have a good time, hang out with friends, find a nice line, cruise it, and then go back. It's one of those things that is hard to describe, but you're feeling very in the moment. You're feeling very relaxed and focused, and you don't think about anything else when you're flying except for getting the shot with the drone. And that is something that I love. So now you're probably asking, would I recommend purchasing an FPV drone instead of a regular drone? Well, both yes and no. I'm going to say that an FPV drone fills its purpose, but I do think that the trend is starting to fade out. So if you don't want to take it like very seriously and become the best FPV drone pilot out there, I'd probably go with a regular drone because you're going to be able to implement those kind of shots much more into the videos that you're creating. If you're creating sort of like regular videos for YouTube clients than what you can with an FPV drone. But it also depends on the amount of money that you want to spend. Buying an FPV drone with a GoPro, TBS Tango 2 Pro, the new DJI Goggles 2, it just keeps on. Like there's going to be a lot of money involved into that purchase. Meanwhile, if you put the same amount of money on a regular drone, you're going to be able to get something that is probably going to last you for quite some time. All the different safety sensors that you need. Don't have to worry about anything else. Just like send it, get the shot, bring it back, that's it. And with the DJI Mini 3 and Mini 4, you can actually send it out pretty much anywhere without anyone, thinking about it. But doing that with an FPV drone, it's going to be that. Ah! Anyway, really hope that you enjoyed this video. I just want to share my thoughts on this because I've been seeing a lot of people buying into the FPV drone without knowing why. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Do drop a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.